Welcome to the Judgment-Free Zone. You've downloaded the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast with Matt and Amy, recorded live from the cornfields of Central Illinois. Welcome to episode number 81 for April 22nd, 2024.
Well, hello there, children. Welcome back to your weekly freak show that is the Alcohol-Free Marriage and More podcast. I am Matt, along with the always lovely and mostly walking now Coach Amy. How are you, my love?
I am doing well. Well.
Well. That ankle's actually moving this week.
You know, it's a little stiff right now.
A little stiff.
I need to put.
But you're out of the boot. You're out of the boot.
I did wear it for the 10 days, I was told, not business days, like I kept trying to tell people. I'm 7 to 10 business days. You know when you get into that mode and you learn like that automatic verbiage?
And you're just stuck.
And it's like,
no.
And I'm saying it, I'm like, that
doesn't make sense.
I'm an idiot. Yeah, on the weekends I have off. I don't have to wear the boot on the weekends. But
my body only heals during 9 to 5. Yeah, it's my full-time job.
Yeah, so the foot is healing. The ankle part is still swollen, but thankfully my toes, I don't believe, look like they are going to fall off anymore.
No, they're not. They're still not the correct color, but they're getting closer.
Oh my goodness! So
Quite the project.
It's hopefully when I go in this next week,
there you go.
You'll say, you know what, things are looking good. It's just going to take some time. That's what I'm hoping.
There you go. Just you can't even blame falling down drunk.
I'm a little scared. I'm like, oh gosh, please don't let them. Now I'm gonna have to go and like, what if they say, let's do another X-ray?
Let's go looking for trouble. That's what they're gonna say.
Could be.
I don't know. So, but hey, kids, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this podcast with a friend of yours, neighbor, whoever. We're good with whoever it happens to be. And while you're out there on the interwebs, go to jointherSide.com, where you can download our Beyond Spirits, the 7 tips for starting your alcohol-free journey that helped us get started.
And we also have our marriage guide.
We have our marriage guide
that you can download as well.
Yes.
And we're in the process of getting, a new website. So
go now before all chaos breaks loose.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, the foot is doing well.
Well, good.
Yeah, I really am not limping.
No.
Which is awesome.
Well, that's good. April, now that we're over halfway through it, is actually Alcohol Awareness Month.
Yes.
Not the good part about alcohol awareness, the bad part about alcohol awareness.
Well, what I thought I would do is just read, Are You at Risk?
That sounds good. Are you at risk, Amy?
More than 14 million American adults have alcohol use disorder. Knowing whether alcohol is interfering with your life requires self-reflection and awareness. Signs of potential problems include an increasing tolerance to alcohol. So that means you're wanting. You're drinking more.
It takes more to get to the same place.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're craving to drink when you're not. Like you start thinking about it.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But sure.
Inability to cut down or quit.
Never been there. No. Okay.
Neglecting responsibilities at home or work due to drinking.
Hold on. That one is interesting. Go ahead.
All right. Well,
that's interesting because that's where a lot of people go, well, I'm still okay there, so I haven't done a problem.
And where I would push back on, is there something that you're like, okay, yeah, this was on my to-do list, like things, and all of a sudden you're like pushing off stuff. It
becomes a tomorrow problem because I got to drink now. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, those are not
procrastination.
Doesn't have to be big things. It could be like, oh, you know what? I need to have a difficult conversation. I don't want to have a difficult conversation.
I'll drink and do it tomorrow.
So I'll go ahead and have a drink.
True.
So anyways, let's see. Continue alcohol use despite knowing its negative effects.
Mm-hmm.
Using alcohol to manage your stress.
Preach.
That would be the check for me. Continuing to drink even though it causes depression or anxiety, and it could be that it makes it worse.
Well, that's the problem, right?
The chicken or the egg.
Like you think, I drink because I have anxiety. Well,
it's fueling.
You may, and you could, but the alcohol, my anxiety is next to comparatively speaking, close to nothing from what it used to be when I was drinking.
I'm, you're off your depression meds, but like anxiety, depression meds, I'm off of them.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that is everyone.
Yep.
I mean, but because it took me 3 years to actually be brave enough to actually try to wean myself off.
You gotta take the alcohol out first.
Yeah, you really do. And then continuing. Oh wait, no, I just said that. Health problems caused by alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just say in there too, health problems and like you have a diagnosis,
Yep.
And then ignoring it.
That'll be fine.
It'll be okay.
Fine.
And with that, you can even have your medical professional can even just say, oh yeah, a couple.
We've talked to, including myself, multiple people who've had that where they're medical professionals like, oh, you'll be fine. Or it's like,
And just a reminder that now it has been proven that they're saying the CDC is saying, if you haven't started to drink, don't. And I think that is pretty telling.
Yes.
So anyways, that is what we're going to cover on today's podcast about Alcohol-Free Awareness Month, right?
It's Alcohol Awareness Month.
Alcohol Awareness Month. Well, they should be alcohol-free.
Oh, and happy belated Husband Appreciation Day to all you husbands out there. Coach Amy, what is your drink of the week?
Oh my gosh.
One of your faves that we had when it was a beta from Go Brewing.
It's the Salty AF Chelada?
I think that's how you say it, Chelada. That's how I always say it.
Or Salada?
Maybe Chelada?
Chelada?
Chelada? I don't know.
Chelada? I don't know. I should have asked. Salty, it is, oh my God.
It's a great summer. It has like lime and salt vibes in it. It's a great summer beer. Hopefully it's limited right now, but they did a can for it, so I'm guessing it's going to hang around for a while. I kept a 6-pack back just for the lake this summer because
it could be a seasonal, but I don't remember. But it is from Go Brewing. I love the artwork. I think it is
most of their cans
so cute.
Then you have this can from Go Brewing, which is doesn't have artwork at all. It's very plain. Straight out of alcohol, which came with a straight out of alcohol sticker, which is my new laptop favorite sticker. This is their hop water, their take on hop water. Very good.
It is really good.
Yeah, it's not terribly hoppy. Some are more hoppy than...
I really liked it.
But it's good. It's clean. It's not like hop water that has like peach or whatever. It's just water. But very good. And I threw that in the order when I was ordering your Salty AF.
And that one is, again, 0
Yes,
calories.
This is totally 0 calories because just
I don't
water.
know. This one doesn't... This does not say.
Oh, does it have calories? Must be 0 then. We'll call it 0. I don't think their cans usually do. I'd say 30-ish.
It's going to be some calories on this. I'm just going to say, you're 0.
No, it's not listed. It's got to be 0.
No. Yeah, it is just such a fun. But
and also remember, check our link in the description to Go Brewing for $5 off your first order.
Yes. Please do.
All right, Amy, tell me about Kristen Beckett, our interview today.
Oh my gosh. What a great interview.
Yes.
I can't wait for everyone to listen to it. But Kristen Beckett is a wife and mom living in and working in Madison, Wisconsin. She ditched the mommy wine culture in September of 2022 when she had her last drink, and she started chronicling life after alcohol on Instagram. Her handle is on the social media platform Mocktails and Marathons, and she started this page simply to document and hold herself accountable. But what happened is she started to really inspire and encourage others who are maybe they've already ditched the drink, or they're wanting to, or maybe they're just sober curious. And we hope you enjoy this interview. Well, welcome, Kristen Beckett, and she is from Madison, Wisconsin, and her handle, if you have not heard about her on Instagram, or if you're not on Instagram, it's Mocktails and Marathons. And I have had people who have said, have you seen Mocktails and Marathons? I'm like, yes, I follow her too. So welcome. You're up in Wisconsin, so we're Midwest people here today.
Yay. Thank
So
you so much for
excited.
having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Oh my gosh. So I'm excited to have you. You and I have kind of gone back and forth a few times and we made it work. So, hey, I want to let's go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's what we got to do, right?
Yeah, we got to make it all work and let's just get started. I wanted to have you just do a brief introduction of yourself. Maybe tell us a little bit like what you do now for fun.
Sure. So like you said, I was actually born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, and currently live there now with my husband and my 9-year-old daughter. We also have a 3-year-old yellow lab. So they keep me busy, that's for sure. For fun though, I've picked up running in the last couple of years. I never thought that that would be something that I would say that I do for fun. But I've really gotten into running and exercising, and we are a big outdoor family as well. So we love to hike. We just got a camper last last summer. So we are crossing all of the state parks off of our list and we're planning a trip out west this summer. So definitely enjoy being outdoors. And then, like I said, between my 9-year-old and the dog, they keep me busy. So that's my life in a
Oh,
nutshell.
absolutely love it, love it, love it. So we're gonna just kind of jump in to your addiction story, to a freedom from alcohol.
Great.
So can you, wherever you want to kind of just tell us, wherever you'd like to start.
Sure. So I'm going to start right at the beginning. Like we mentioned, I grew up in Wisconsin, and in my family and in Wisconsin, it's just a very normal thing to be around alcohol and to have like alcohol part of kind of everything you're involved in, every event that you go to. So it's always just been a very normalized thing for me, and I never thought twice about it. I went to a Big Ten university for college, and it was definitely a big drinking school. So I was part of the binge drinking culture there as well. Um, and again, it was always a very normal thing. So it was never something I questioned in my life. Um, After college, I got married and kind of jumped into that. We got pregnant, and I kind of jumped into that mommy wine culture type, culture that we're all a part of as well. Um, During that time, though, I had a very easy pregnancy. Never had any issues with, drinking or wanting to drink while I was pregnant. But during my delivery, I had some issues and ended up not being able to. I had some complications, and I wasn't able to have any more children after the one that I delivered. So I really, really struggled with that. After I heard the news, I struggled with some postpartum depression. I struggled really wrapping my head around the fact that I couldn't have another child. Um, and I kind of turned to wine at that point to help me through that transition and to help me through. There were lots of hormonal things going on to help me through all of that. Um, and it just kind of progressed. Like the first couple of years of my daughter's life, looking back, I don't even know like that there was an issue, but it was continual. And I kept, what one glass of wine used to do for me, now I needed two. And it just kept progressing. And so I noticed that I was drinking more and more, but it wasn't anything that was concerning. Nobody had said anything to me about it at that point or anything like that. So I thought everything was fine. Um, Kind of at that point then too, COVID hit, and that I think is where my really big turning points kind of happened. Um, that's where I was home, I was trying to teach my kid, I was trying to work full time, and I was struggling to keep it all together. So again, I turned to alcohol, and that's when I was drinking a lot more. Um, you know, at least a bottle of wine a night. I was also drinking vodka at the time as well. And at that point was also the switch from I was drinking at night, but I was drinking so much that I was feeling like absolute garbage in the morning. So I would start, oh, the hair of the dog can help a little bit with that. And that's kind of when that switch happened to drinking more and more. Um, and at first, it wasn't every time I drank, but it was gradually getting worse and worse. And that kind of kept happening. COVID lasted for that year and a half that we were kind of on strict lockdowns and things like that. Um, and I kept going at that point. I think a couple kind of turning points in my drinking story were one night when my husband had come home, I had taken a day off of work just because I hadn't felt good. But at that point I was drinking and he had come home and he ended up having to take me to the emergency room because I had drank too much. I think at that point it really should have been my rock bottom, but it wasn't. What happened after that is I got out of the emergency room and they referred me to a program. I went and checked that out. They obviously diagnosed me with alcohol use disorder, and they said that I could do like an inpatient treatment. I wasn't ready for that, so I opted for some counseling, and I opted to try the prescription for naltrexone. I didn't click with the counselor, so I didn't love that aspect of it, and I wasn't taking it seriously. And I think I knew at that point deep down that I wasn't done. I remember walking out of that building for my appointment the first day, and I was mad at myself that I wasn't able to moderate better. And I knew that I wasn't done at that point. So, I kind of walked out with a game plan in my head of telling myself, if I can just do this for a couple weeks, I can be sober for a couple weeks, I can handle that. I can get my family off my back. I can get my husband off my back. And then I can just do a better job moderating. And I did that. I did that great for a while. But then I started drinking again, and it got worse and worse and worse, to the point where my family was questioning me. My husband was questioning me. My daughter would make comments about mommy's talking funny. So everyone around me knew that there was, I should say everyone that was close to me knew that there was an issue. But I wasn't ready to be done yet. I think my biggest turning point was in September, which kind of leads me to the last day that I drank, September of 2022. Me and my daughter were scheduled to run a 5K. They have a little thing at our zoo here. So we were scheduled to run a 5K, and I had drank the night before, and I felt, again, like absolute garbage going into it. We ran it, we did it. It was awful, but we got through, and they had plans. My husband and my daughter had plans later with some friends, and I was given specific instructions that I couldn't drink that day. And as soon as they left, the first thing that I did was run and go to the liquor store, and I drank again. And my husband kind of found me in that same state of when he had took me to the emergency room before. And when I woke up that day, I don't know what it was. I don't know what was different about that day, but I kind of came to, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, the words weren't spoken that there was an ultimatum given to me, but I think I could tell that my husband was just about done with me. And I mean, I didn't have a leg to stand on with my daughter. I was in such a dark place that, I don't know what would have happened with that, but I just felt like I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, as people say. And that was my last day one. That was September 25th of 2022. From there, I didn't really know how to go about it. I had done the counseling. I never tried AA. I was scared to try AA. I was scared to like physically walk into a meeting. There was something about that just didn't click with me. I know it's a great thing for a lot of people. I didn't know about a lot of the alcohol coaches that are around now. So that wasn't even something that was on my radar. At the time, I was following some people on Instagram that were promoting sobriety. So I had found a program through that on Instagram and completed like a 75-day challenge that incorporated some fitness and daily habits and things like that. And I found a community that I'm a part of, and that I found other women that were going through the same thing that I was going through. And that was my biggest game changer, just being able to like know that there are other people. I'm not this crazy person and the only person that's dealing with these struggles. So finding that community was my biggest game changer. And I'm still part of that community now. And that kind of leads me up to where I am now.
Oh my goodness. And when did you start your website or your Instagram
That was
page?
January of 23. So like I said, I had done that 75-day program, and that was kind of over, the challenge part of it. And I was like, I have no idea what to do now. Like, I don't have this thing that I'm supposed to be keeping up with every day. And it just kind of popped into my head, and I was just kind of getting into the fitness and running part of it. So I started it at that point, and it's honestly been like my biggest form of therapy. like I said, I didn't always click with the counselors and therapists, but this has been like my way to get everything out and do like a daily check-in with myself almost for that.
I
So that's about, yeah, January of 23.
I love it. I love that. And the one thing I wanted to dive into is this culture around, it's the mommy wine culture. We need alcohol as moms to be
Yes.
able to do life. Being a mom is hard. I'm not gonna, it is not easy, but we are told that it is so hard that you just can't handle it. And, what is your take around all of that?
I agree. I mean, I think it's essentially just like forced upon you. I think of like when I delivered my child and like the first thing they do, we got champagne brought to our room. I remember doctors telling me that like in order to nurse your child that you can drink a beer and that's going to make you, produce
Mm-hmm.
more. So I think like that's the start of it, but then it's also like the play dates and oh, I'll bring a bottle of wine to go to the park. And like, I mean, I remember first birthday parties and baptisms. For me, like the most important thing was the mimosa bar that we were going to have and the Bloody Mary bar that we were going to have. And it's just so like ingrained in the culture, I feel like. Um, and being a mom is hard. And I look at it now and I'm like, I don't know how I did this with a hangover constantly, but it's it's amazing what you see on the other side of it, how much harder you make it on yourself when you're constantly pouring poison into your body and
Yeah.
when you're constantly just not feeling your best. You think it's going to calm you down and it's going to make it a little bit more easy. But I mean, I was just not a good mom when I was drinking. And I know that. And I hate that part of my story, but that's the reality of it.
But you've changed so much. And I just, when I was, going through some of your reels and everything, just, those tips around, that you can do this. That, like where are the things that I was being lied to? And that's how I coach people around this too. It's like, where are the lies that we are being sold and we just accept? And
Right.
what would have been one of the, what are some of the biggest lies that you found you were just accepting along the way?
I think I always thought that I needed alcohol to relax. I don't think that I ever had a kind of a turn off, something to turn me off at the end of the night. I was never like an everyday drinker. I was a binge drinker. And so weekends were my time to shine. So like I always thought that I needed a glass of wine to relax, and that always started on a Friday night. So I think that was my biggest thing is I needed that signal to my brain. And there's so many other ways now, looking at it now, there's so many other ways now that I know how to signal my brain to turn off from the work and go into the weekend mode. Um, and I think just as like a celebration too, I think we're so ingrained to like have alcohol as part of our celebrations, not only our celebrations, but our when we're having a bad day. So I think it's just always something that no matter what the emotion is that we're feeling, we're told that this needs to be a part of it because it's going to make you happier. It's going to make you more excited. It's going to calm you down. Um, and whether it be the movies that you see when you're little, because I notice it now when I'm watching movies, with my child, to, to the t-shirts that you see and the cups that you see, like it's just so in your face that it's hard not to get involved in it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, one of the things that I don't know if you have ever seen it before, but one of the things that really made me so mad was when I saw Hello Kitty wine. And
Oh God.
I was,
No, I have not, but
and it was, when you're on the end caps of your grocery store. And I looked at it and you have your top shelf. And usually, if they're going to have alcohol, they have it on that next shelf where it's in
right.
our site. It was down one more shelf.
So it was
And
at
it
that
was at
level.
kid level.
Yep.
And it made me so angry.
I mean, there was
I
intention behind that for
There's
sure.
intention behind that. It is, oh, this is so cute.
Uh-huh.
And probably in my past life, I would have been all about it. Like, oh, Hello Kitty. I
Absolutely.
love Hello Kitty. But now looking at it, I'm like, that's just wrong. And then just especially where it was at on the shelving plate, because I used to work in grocery. And so I'm like, I knew
Yeah,
specifically that it was bought and placed right there. I actually complained,
good for
mention it.
you.
And but and then it was changed. I mean, it was
Well,
like,
and
I'm
I
like,
think
this is
just,
bad.
yeah.
This is
And
not
just being
right.
able to kind of educate yourself on it, and just where I am on my journey and knowing and educating myself a little bit more, the stuff that big alcohol does to get you to drink and to get it in front of you and to, market it to kids and get it placed in these movies and get it placed in these shows. I mean, they know what they're doing, but it's just sad that we fall for it, and that, not that they're doing it to kids, number one, but it gets them on that train early, and it gets them rolling along, so they've got those future customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I was going to ask also, how is your relationship? Like, I know that it sounds like your relationship, like it was on pretty rocky, shaky ground. Um, no ultimatum was given, but tell us about what it's like now.
Yeah, it was not great. Not great at all. We It's done a complete 180, but it's been very different for us because we were so, like, alcohol was our identity, and we were that couple that was always so, like, ready to throw a party. If there weren't plans, like, we would have people over at our house because I wanted to be able to have an excuse to drink. And my husband he was he never had the issues that I had around alcohol. Um, but he always enjoyed himself. Like, we met at a bar. We Fridays and Saturdays were always, there was alcohol involved. We loved to go to, like, breweries and wineries, and that was just who we were and what we did. So when we all of a sudden took this piece out, it was like, I don't know, like, what do we do? I don't know what we do anymore. What do we do on date nights? Like, how do we hang out? So that was, there were some growing pains in that. We figured out the things that we like now, and we had a lot of fun trying to figure out the different areas and different things that we liked. But it was just such a big part of our marriage that we struggled for a little while, in that in between phase. But yeah, I mean, the last couple of years of my drinking and kind of at the end of my drinking, it was just not in a good place. There was no trust. I mean, I was lying all the time about my drinking. He would find bottles around our house, so it was a very bad place that we were in. But it's been amazing that we've been able to kind of claw our way back from that.
Yeah, I mean, very similar for us, right?
Mhm.
Like it was like, well, what are we gonna like? This is our hobby. This is what we
Right,
do. It's like,
right.
what are we gonna
Yeah.
do now? Now, does he not drink at all now, or is he still
He
drinking?
actually does drink, and that's been another, kind of thing we've had to navigate as well. So he, like I said, he doesn't have kind of the issues around it that I had, but he will every once in a while have a couple beers, and he's fine with stopping at a couple beers. But I've really had to set those boundaries for myself, and we've had to have those hard conversations. Um, I I am completely, in my sobriety, I'm fine being around it, and I'm fine with other people doing it. But once it gets to a point with other people, I need to remove myself from the situation. So we've
Yeah.
had those conversations. We've had our ups and downs with that, but that's been a kind of, especially at the beginning, it was a point of contention when he was like, well, like, am I able to drink a beer in my own home, or how do we go about, it was just kind of a weird road to navigate. He did for a while, like the first couple months, he didn't drink at all. But once I got a little more comfortable around it, then he will have one every once in a while.
Yeah, and I want to ask you too, because that's a big struggle that I have
Mm-hmm.
found with women who are trying to quit, or the spouse is still drinking. And what would be like a piece of advice that you would give to them um, in that?
Yeah. I think, like I said, setting boundaries. I was never one to set boundaries. I'm one of the biggest people pleasers you will meet. Um, but being able to recognize where you need to stop, then being able to communicate that to your significant other, because I know my limits when he's had a couple more than I like, and I can't be around that anymore. I either need to go upstairs or something needs to happen. So being able to know your own boundaries yourself and being able to communicate those to kind of ensure that those are in place. And I think on the other boundary does get broken, being able to, maybe the next day or the next couple days have that conversation too and say, okay, this is what happened. This is how it made me feel. And I never thought I'd like be this person that does this, but it's been essential to like, because he doesn't always recognize when I'm having struggles either. And especially if he's had a couple, then, taking a step back from the situation and having that discussion a few days later too.
Sure. And does he drink probably less than he used to on average, probably?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's an interesting trickle down effect because Amy quit before I did. And I was doing the moderation thing, but on average, I was drinking less just because, you know, we weren't doing that kind of team drinking as it were, right? So, it changed my view. It's like, well, we're not doing it together. It's like, do I, so I didn't stop, but I cut back to some degree.
Totally.
So it is interesting. People are like, well, if I don't, and they don't, what happens is like, well, there will be a knock-on effect a little bit, right?
Right.
But that, it's great that he was so supportive and, quit and got it out to help you, because Amy's talked to a lot of people and we've talked to a lot of people who it's like, well, my spouse wasn't supportive or they still want to go, full tilt.
Right.
Almost.
I can't imagine where I would be without him stopping at the beginning or without the support because he knew obviously that I had a problem and that I needed to stop. So
right.
I think he was willing to do that to try and get it figured out for us. But yeah, that's been instrumental for sure in my recovery.
Yeah, and I'm asked how is your relationship now with your daughter?
So much better. Like I said, I still struggle with like the mom that I was during that time. And so I'm trying to almost make up for it now. I know that I can only have one kid and I really struggled with that at the beginning, like I said, but right now I think I'm just trying to like soak it all in. We've got a great relationship now. She's 9, going on 16, so we're dealing with all those fun things of the preteen years. But I just really want to make sure that like she doesn't remember me for that mom that I was, and she does remember me for the mom that I am now. So I think night and day different. I think was, I don't know if scared is the right word, but she knew. She was a smart kid. She knew when I was drinking. She knew when my personality changed a little bit, or like I said, she could understand when I was talking funny. So she knew, and I just don't want those memories to be the core memories that she has of our relationship.
Yeah, I mean, mom guilt's a real thing, and Amy said the whole thing like, oh well, I lost all these years, and so kudos to you for fixing it earlier in your child's life, but even later, older kids, our kids have noticed like differences in how we act and how we interact with them, the things we do. So it's never too late, but obviously the earlier, the better. And you have some formidable years coming up that are going to be very important.
Right. And we talk about now too, like what is that going to look like for her? Because she's seen, she knows what happened with me. She knows that I don't drink. We haven't had those conversations of why I don't drink or kind of what happened. But I mean, she's going to be in high school in the next couple of years and she's going to have to make some of those decisions on her own. So I'm happy that like with years, we'll be able to have those conversations too. I don't know what those are going to look like, but it'll be something to navigate, and I think it'll be good for me to be able to navigate those conversations with me being an example and not me being like, oh, don't drink, but I'm allowed to drink. So,
or worse yet, being their drinking buddy. That's not
exactly. Like, yes, right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that is such a, like being able to figure that out. And so I would encourage you to do that, like to really start to look at like, just talking to her. And it's no different really in some ways than talking to your child about not smoking.
Right. Okay.
Because smoking is different. I mean, but when you look at it from like the health perspectives and everything, there are some really, I mean, it's, as you said earlier, it's a toxin that we
Right.
put into our body, and then we just let it, we give it a pass. We're like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. That's how we celebrate life. That's how we mourn. That's how we do everything. And to be able to, you guys are showing her that there are different ways to live your life, and being able to, because I know, like you said, I mean, you just said something that really hit me in the heart, was that, you know, being able to have these conversations clearly. I mean, I was the mom who would say, have your, I want all the kids to come here. I don't want anybody drinking and driving. So we would have it. And not that I was getting drunk, because I wasn't, but I'm sitting upstairs as all the kids are coming in. I'm enjoying my glass of wine.
Right. Exactly.
And, now I look back at that, and I'm thankful that my kids have said, they're like, well, Mom, you weren't falling down. You weren't doing things. You were, so at least I do have that. And I know that they wouldn't be where they're at right now if I hadn't been doing some right things. But honestly, for you to be able to be going like into these junior high teenage years, and being fully present, clear-headed, knowing, like, okay, this is what you can do, what, and being really upfront how alcohol changes people.
Right.
I mean,
and
I'm not
thankful that I was going to say, I'm just thankful that someday, if something does happen and she makes her choices, that I can be the person that she calls on a Friday night, because there are times when, I was home by myself and my husband wasn't home or something, that if something would have happened to her, I wouldn't have been able to drive her to urgent care or the emergency room. So just like having,
or worse yet, you would have thought you could and tried to do it anyway.
Well, unfortunately, yes, that too.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
And that is, I mean, it is true. You just want, I can't say enough how great I feel that I am completely, fully present at all times, not choosing a substance over a person. And you have that, like, you have that right now, and that is amazing. So I'm so happy for you and all of that.
Now I'm curious how your running has improved then with.
I was not a runner before I got sober at all. Like, I would laugh at people who would run, and it became my release. It became it started with walking, and then all of a sudden I was like, well, let's just give running a try. So I don't have a lot to compare it to from before I was sober at all. It's, like I said, it's just kind of like my mental release now. And I'm by no means setting any records with any of my runs, but it's just, I love to be outside. I love to have, it's my me time when I don't have to be like bombing or be thinking about anything, and I can just kind of clear my head. So I do fine, but I'm not bringing any records by any means.
Well, you're kind of in the boat that I know I've told Amy multiple times for myself of, if you told me, 3.5 years ago that I'd be a non-drinker who goes to the gym 3 days a week, I'd been like, you are drunk right now. Right. And you're kind of the same thing, right? Like, if 3 years ago, somebody said, you're going to be sober and be running, you'd be like, that's dumb. Right. I mean, that just doesn't cross your mind, but you get rid of the toxin, and you have more time because you're not sitting around drinking and hungover all the time. But B, you start thinking like, oh, I feel better. Like, could I feel even better if I did this? Or I feel like doing these things now because I'm not constantly recovering from a hangover. So that is awesome.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point too, because yes, you feel so much better. You're removing this toxin from your body. But how can I make myself feel better too? I mean, I've been part of my recovery has been experimenting a lot with food and using food as nutrition. So just trying to figure out like what works well with my body. And before I was just worried about like getting a greasy hamburger down so that I could feel better. And now it's like, okay, I know this does this to my body, and I know this doesn't make my body feel good. So just like that aspect of things too, and being able to improve my health in that way has been a game changer as well.
Right.
Oh, I love it. So I want to ask you, What has been like your biggest challenge in all of this with not drinking?
I think biggest challenge has been kind of what did I write this? Um, I wrote something down for this. No, I'm fine. My notes here. I'm sorry. Um, I think the biggest challenge was trying to rationalize my life without alcohol. I think I kind of thought that I thought that not being able to drink was going to be like a death sentence on my life and that I was never going to have fun again. I thought that like everything would be dull, everything would be gloom, and like that I would just sit at home and do absolutely nothing. And I think that that was kind of debunked as far as just being able to get out there. The first couple of months were not fun. Like I wasn't able to do a lot of these things. I wasn't able to put myself out there. I wasn't ready yet. But kind of being in this space now that, I'm able to go out and I'm able to have conversations with people and I'm able to come home and remember the night and I'm able to like form relationships with people that were so surface level before. I think that's kind of been the biggest thing that's come out of it.
Well, that's
Yeah.
so good.
Learning how to have fun again is a bit of a
Yes.
trick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I'm going to ask you this one. What does your family and your friends, what do they think about this transformation that you've gone through?
Yeah. I mean, the people who were closest to me, I talk about, like my husband and my parents and my sisters. They're obviously proud of me. They knew that it needed to happen. Um, and they've seen the strides that I've made and how much better that it's made my life. But I think on the other hand, like a lot of even some of my closest friends didn't know how much that I was struggling with alcohol. And when I tell them, that I'm sober or tell them how much I was struggling, close friends and not even as close friends, but people that I hung out with a lot, like so many of them would say, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that like it was that bad to the point where you need to stop." So I think, and I don't think that I'm the only one that this happens to either. I think there's so many people out there that are really good at hiding it and it really sneaks up on them. Um, and I think that's a big point to make because so many people don't know that there's all these people struggling with
Hmm.
alcohol. And so those people I think are just very surprised when I would tell them that, hey, I don't drink anymore. Hey, it's been this long since I drank. And I'm not drinking anymore because there was a really big issue. Um, I mean, even like the neighbors that I hang out with and some of the people that I would go on play dates with were just like, they saw my Instagram account or something and they'd be like, I had no idea that you were struggling this bad. And so I just think it's a very interesting point to make and how many women, particularly that I've connected with too, who are just like, I'm afraid to tell anyone, but I am struggling with this. What do I do?
Yeah, that was gonna be my
Oh,
other questions. Have you had people come to
yeah.
you to be like, yeah, I was just like that? And I think there's so many people, I think that's why it doesn't appear to be that big of a problem in the general world of like, well, you're not under a bridge and you're okay. But there's so many
Right.
people who hide it so well, hide bottles, hide when they drink or drink more alone so the people don't know, or can moderate enough in public that people don't know it, right? There's so many ways to hide it.
Yeah.
We've all heard all the tricks that people don't realize how many people
Right.
are actually struggling. And so when they, find a safe space or a safe person to talk to, like, oh, yeah, you looked quote unquote, right, normal, but
Right.
you had a
Mhm.
problem too. That really gives people some freedom to like start opening that door a little bit to see what their life could look like, right?
Yeah.
Totally. And I think unfortunately that there is just so much shame associated with it still. I think the stigma is getting a little bit better, but there's still like that. Like I said, I was afraid to go into an AA meeting because I was afraid of what people would think. And having like a face-to-face conversation with somebody scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
So there's just that stigma. And even now I'll get like rude comments on Instagram or something like that about people who are, oh, just stuff about being an alcoholic or things like that. And obviously I was an alcoholic. I had an issue with alcohol, but that doesn't define me as a person. So I know that there is the stigma associated with it. I hate that it is, but I think it's moving inch by inch by inch in a different
Hmm.
direction that
Yep.
people are
And it
realizing that
is.
this is a problem with a lot of individuals.
Yeah, there is a problem. And those types of comments just drive me crazy because no
Hmm.
one would ever say that to a person who quits smoking or if they were doing heroin or
Right.
anything like that. There would be nothing except support. But yet when someone is struggling with alcohol,
Right.
um, our society, big alcohol has just made it on that individual. Oh, well, it's your fault.
Well, it's even a joke. Like, t-shirt just like, I'm no quitter,
Yeah.
right? Like the joke,
I
like,
know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
that. And you would never see that with like, yeah, smoking or like heroin. I'm no quitter. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't do that, but for some reason, yeah, alcohol.
With alcohol, it's this perception that it's okay. Oh yeah, there are people who deal with it, but that's their problem. That's their fault. They couldn't
Right.
moderate. And
Right.
that was me. I'm like, and the bad thing is for a lot of people, they're like, oh, if only I could moderate. Well, the thing is, that's what moderation is for most of us. It's
Yeah.
misery. It's
Yes.
it's this
Oh yeah.
constantly thinking of how many I'm gonna have, how many I'm not gonna have, what am I gonna do? Like that whole mind game.
Oh my
After I
gosh.
moderated, I told Amy, I said, I'm either going to drink or not drink because this moderation is just way more mind space than it takes. It's like, this is
Yes.
stupid. Like, and I never would have thought. I thought moderation was like the golden ticket from Willy Wonka, you know?
Exactly.
And it turns out it's actually, I had so many brain cycles just around timing my drinking and counting my drinking. I'm like, this is way too much work.
When am I going to drink next? Where am I going to get
Yep.
this? How am I going to? I know it's crazy. I saw
Yeah.
some quote or something that was something along the lines of, um, if you would have told me that it was going to be easier to be sober than to moderate, I would have, laughed or whatever. And
Oh yeah.
like that would have been me a couple years ago, but I 100% agree with it. Just the mind gymnastics that you would do trying to figure out
Oh
those
yeah.
rules and stick to those
All
rules
the
and
rules.
All the rules.
All the
oh,
rules. I was going to ask you, so now you're running, and so the other part of your Instagram handle is mocktails. So do you make a lot of mocktails?
I, coming up with this name, I thought that that would be kind of like a fun thing to do. But I love just like the things that are out there now. I will mix and match and see what I have in my house, and every once in a while come up with different mocktails and things like that. My parents have actually like become little mixologists whenever I come over to their house, and like they'll come up with a new little mocktail for me. But I there's so many different things on the market right now as far as non-alcoholic options and wine and beer and things like that, that I usually go towards buying something and just having that in the fridge to be able to grab at a moment's notice.
Yeah, we actually had to rebuy a bar kit because we ditched all this stuff when we quit drinking. Like, we don't need all this
Yeah.
stuff. We're like, well, crap. Now we mix more drinks than we ever did before. Now we had to buy all this crap again. So, what is my final question? What is your favorite go-to NA drink on a Friday night now?
On a Friday night, I love Groovy. They have a dry secco, it's called. So I love that as far as like summer wine goes. And then the brand Mocktails has a bunch of different like canned mocktails. And they have just a bunch of different ones that like, they have like a fake cosmopolitan or like an espresso martini. So if there's like a certain thing that you're, you know, kind of in the mood for or whatever, I love those as well. So those are kind of my go-to right now.
I love
Awesome.
it.
I
I
love
love
that.
it. I'm so excited for you. I'm so happy that you came on our show. I wanted to share your story because, as you know, and I know, we're not alone in this. And that is the biggest thing is that we all need connection around this. And so, if anybody who is listening is sober curious and you're just wanting to see what life could be like, I am going to encourage everybody to, follow Kristen and it's mocktails and marathons on Instagram. And we just can't wait to see how you continue on your success. Um,
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is so fun. Thank you for having me today.
oh, thank you.
Well, thank you, Kristen. That was an amazing interview.
Yeah.
I love her attitude. Again, just so happy that she started her journey at a much younger age than we did.
Oh my
Good
gosh.
on her for that.
Yeah. And just also that, we can all have that point where we're drinking, but then, when life throws something at you, and she was dealing with grief, that all of a sudden it just opens it up that our brain is like, oh, alcohol is going to help me with that.
Right.
And I just appreciate her vulnerability. I appreciate how she shares it on social media. She is doing, she's just doing a wonderful job being a light to others.
Being an ambassador. We
Yep.
can all be ambassadors out there, kids. All right, well, that's it for us for this week. We hope to see you next week around here on the podcast Podosphere. I'm Matt, along with the always lovely Coach Amy. Wish you peace and love from the cornfields, and we are
out.